Shay or Saoirse. So I work primarily in Bailey in our central kitchen is where my office is located. But we do have 11 schools throughout the district. It's a large undertaking. Do you have a PowerPoint? Okay. So, so most of you guys know us for our lunch program. We also do breakfast, but I'll start with the lunch. So USDA guidelines regulate what we can and can't serve as part of the National School Lunch Program. Through the National School Lunch Program, we are able to allow for all students to have a meal at breakfast and a meal at lunch without a cost to them. We also have a snack program that we expanded this year to be available at other schools besides just the middle schools and high schools. All of our snacks are regulated under Smart Snacks program. So same thing, we have to fulfill certain nutritional guidelines. So they're healthier snacks than what you might normally find at the grocery store. The Offer versus Serve is the program that we use to offer lunches and breakfasts through the National School Lunch Program. So we offer a variety of items and students have to take 3 items for it to be a complete meal. And one of them has to be a fruit. So this is kind of a little handy diagram to explain what they would have to take. We do have posters around all the school buildings to make it a little easier for the students to understand. They can combine different items. It doesn't mean that they always have to take grain or they always have to take meat. They're able to mix and match as long as they have a fruit or a vegetable. So students who have specific dietary restrictions, this is something that comes up a lot. Parents should contact the nurse and there's a form that gets filled out and that form comes to us. And then we're able to accommodate whatever the needs are. We do have students who are gluten-free, or we do vegetarian options. We do have dairy-free options. We have all the options available. We just need the paperwork. That way we can be reimbursed for the added cost of the items that we purchase. Also, we have a meal viewer website, which I will show you guys in a little bit. If students enjoy the item or maybe they don't like an item, we encourage them or their parents to rate it on the meal website. There's options to favorite items. There's options to select things that you're not allergic to or allergic to. You can see nutritional information. This is a screenshot of it, but I am going to bring up the actual.
And Shay, while you're bringing that up, oh, it's already up, but can you tell us about how many meals you prepare per day?
So between like just for lunch, 3,000 to like 4,000. Breakfast is less, but it has been rising. We do have a lot of fun new breakfast items this year. So I think that the more that the word gets out about what we're serving, the more students do come to check it out, even just to try something. I mean, it's no cost to them. So they should just come and grab something to go, even if you're going to eat it later. The on Meal Viewer, you can actually see breakfast. And this is just the middle school. So we do have a different Meal Viewer website. It's available through the regular Kingston City School District website. And each grade level has a different menu online because each grade level does have different dietary restrictions, different restrictions on sugar, so what we can serve. So we do have it broken down by grade level. So if you go over the items, you can see a little picture of what it is. The nutrition facts are there. It'll say if something has wheat or gluten. Same thing if something has soy, it'll come up. you can also go over here and say, check off something you're allergic to, and it will cross off everything that contains whatever the allergy is. And you can also print. Load. You can print and you can select. I'm not logged in, but you can select what you're allergic to, and when you print it, it'll cross off everything. Some parents find that helpful for students who have an allergy. That way they can print it out, keep it on the fridge so the kids can see exactly what they can have each day for breakfast or lunch. We do also have it take away my gluten allergy. We do also have it translatable into Spanish, so it will change the majority of it. So the item itself will switch over into Spanish. And then on the left side here, we have this handy little nutrition calculator. And then here, actually, Nanette put this together where you can click on this and it will link.
I want to point out that was Mary, our SNAP Ed
Oh, I'm sorry.
educator. Totally fine. We work together on a lot of things, but she helped link that.
This gives you a whole bunch of information on how to read the nutritional label if you have any questions about that. We also, so this month, that harvest of the month isn't up yet, but I just added this one so you can see what it looks like. It's actually beets for this month. So we do have beets featured on our menu a couple times. But when you click this, it'll take you to the Eat Well Kingston Eats website. It's like eatwellkingston.com. And then if you click up here, it will take you to our wonderful application. If anyone's interested in working for food service, we are always hiring. We have a lot of different types of positions for people, again, people interested in working for us. Oh yes, and then if you were to click on something, you can rate it here. And you can favorite items also, if you like it or not. And if you were going to log in to rate things or favorite items, or save any sort of menu arrangement you would use this for, you would just log in with your My School Bucks password. It's the same exact login information. Go back to this. Okay, so Meal Viewer is a new addition to the Kingston City School District website. The menu is listed with nutritional information. Click on things, rate them, favorite them, see what ingredients they have. I can see all that information also. So we do take that into account when we're planning next month's menu. What went well, what didn't go well. Or even if maybe we just have to, we'll change up a recipe to make it more palatable.
Can I just ask real quickly, this is Bryn, do you see a lot of students rating the meals?
I don't, honestly, as much as I thought I would have, but I think it's because a lot of people don't know about the menu being online this way. A few people I've talked to just in passing, like around the city, and people are like, oh wow, I didn't know you had an online menu. So I think just the more the word gets out, the more people realize they can do that. Yeah, and then hopefully we'll get more rating, more feedback. Right now, the majority of the feedback we'll get is either just seeing how many of the meals sell or don't sell, or the students telling us.
I wonder if this could be a tutorial that's given to the students, just a thought.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to have a little class, maybe in like an advisory class for them to just go over how to use it, because it is available. Well, It is available on a mobile app also, but try not to encourage the cell phones in school anymore. But they can access it even in the library on the computer there or at home, you know. We were going to put up a little flyer to send home with parents for some of the schools because I'm not sure that everyone knows. It is listed on the Kingston website. I'll actually show you guys where it is listed.
And then I also help facilitate the district wellness committee, and through that there's a wellness newsletter, and I've broken it down like a how-to like series on the Meal Viewer, but I don't know how well dispersed the newsletter gets, but we can always recreate it and repurpose it because I think it's such a great tool for feedback.
Definitely, especially with so many students in the district. I mean, the goal is to get as many kids eating a healthy breakfast and lunch every day, but obviously we need to serve what they like. So if you're on the Kingston School District website and you go down to menus here, this has all of the menus. When you click it, it will link right to the Meal Viewer page. For each grade level. And then if you go down here, there's a lot of question answers for common things that come up. There's also contact information for the food service director, Joe Begans. I will put my email in the chat here also, because questions do come up maybe even after the presentation. People think of things. And we're always here to answer them or get feedback that way.
Can I ask a quick question? I know at Poughkeepsie and at Bard at one point they were doing like a yuck yum like iPad when students would leave the dining service. Have you guys thought about that at all? Just basically like a thumbs up, thumbs down for the meal to kind of get that like real time feedback.
Oh no, that is interesting. It's definitely something that we could discuss trying out at some of the schools.
It just kind of lives on a podium, and then as
Okay.
you're like exiting the dining room, they just kind of push the green or the red button. And even at Bard, we didn't get like a ton of response, but it did help a little bit. Like there were days where it was like very obvious that it was a hit. And
That's definitely not a bad idea to try out. I'm meeting over the next couple months with our SNAP Ed educators at the schools actually to go over smarter lunchroom service. So that's something that we could discuss during then too. Maybe at the elementary schools, that might be the best option. Breakfast. So just like the lunch program, students have to take a fruit or vegetable option for breakfast. Juice does count as a fruit. Breakfast items change daily and include variety cereal and oatmeal as an option. Breakfast after the bell is something that we do. So students who maybe overslept a little bit or missed the bus or for whatever reason are a little bit later getting to school, they're able to take a breakfast to go. This would be a bag breakfast with cold items just to take with them, eat in the classroom. Because we really want to encourage kids to have something to start their day with instead of just, oh, I woke up late and now you're missing breakfast. And then by the time you get to lunch, you might be starving. So breakfast after the bell is something all the schools offer to the students. Outside of the cafeteria, especially during the summertime, our food service program does serve meals elsewhere. So we support school food pantries. We do summer parks program, or we'll do breakfast and lunch to city parks. We are active health and wellness committee members. We have the backpack program, which is it's put together through the high school, but it allows fruits, vegetables, and also various like canned and shelf staple items to go home with students who might need a little extra support with food. The fresh fruit and vegetable program, we rolled out at all of the schools this year except for Meyer. But Meyer does have taste tests that Nanette and her crew are very helpful in organizing. The fresh fruit and vegetable program is something that introduces students to fruits and vegetables that maybe they might not experience in regular life. So we try this tomorrow or today. We're doing Swiss chard, rainbow Swiss chard. So they'll get to try it, they'll get to talk about it. There's educational materials that go along with it. And the thought is the next time they hear of that vegetable or see that vegetable, they'll have some sort of familiarity with it and they'll be excited to see it. Wild Earth snacks, reading and writing program. We do a top snack program, catering events for school staff meeting, school staff training and parent conferences, supporting Hudson Valley farmers by purchasing and serving their produce. Students who eat well, learn well, and healthy food service at
And I see,
school.
Kristen, you have your hand up and, oh,
I didn't see it.
no, that's okay.
Hi, yeah. I just wanted to jump in because I know I think we might be getting a little closer to time, but we still got Katie to present. But on the fresh fruit and vegetable program, I just attended the new farm to school working group that Ninette was really able to like bring folks together from the KCSD Wellness Committee, and that was really cool. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit more maybe it's in your next slide. I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
No, that's fine.
About kind of the other partners that are a part of that, because I think we've got some really, thinking about the theme of today with like local food, we've got some great local grower partners and so forth, and like how that kind of helps with supporting the demand side, I guess, too, in the district for local foods.
Yes, definitely. Local is the push this year, and next year it was my next plan. So obviously we still have to consider costs and quality of products, but these are just some of our local sources this year. We're constantly expanding. The farm to school working group is something that was recently organized, and it's kind of like it's like a hub of local producers and school staff and parents and just people who really want to help foster using more local products, especially in our school district, because we are such a big purchaser of food. And it is really nice to know that we're serving students things that maybe they might recognize that their parents work there or they have family works there. We're supporting the local academy, which is always great. So many of these we've used for a few years. I mean, we have Higley Brothers Produce, Safar Produce, Ginsburg, Hudson Valley Farm Hub, Herd Apples. We do Slate Foods New York, Rondout Valley Growers, Upstate Farms is where we get all of our yogurt from, Hudson Valley Fresh, and Hudson Harvest. There are others that we're definitely looking forward to working with in the future, such as like the Crop Shop and a lot of other farmers who operate through Rondout Valley Growers or through the Farm Hub. And obstacles and barriers that we do face. We have to fulfill the nutritional guidelines, so we are limited as to what we can do. Not everything can be cheese and salt, bacon, and also most of our kitchens around the district are very small. We do have a central kitchen to produce things, but it has to get delivered to all the schools, which when we have inclement weather like this Thursday, it does kind of throw a wrench into our operation, because we do have to get everything prepared. We're bringing products in, we're preparing it, and then we're delivering it to all the schools. We have to put it on demand, or that way the schools have enough time to get it ready for the students. Limiting waste, preventing overproduction, purchasing from vendors. Local vendors are generally more costly, but we are working around that to use as much local product as we can because it is better quality. The weather changing means maintaining equipment and repairs. We have 11 schools, 11 kitchens, and a ton of stoves and refrigerator systems that constantly need to be maintained. Sometimes vendors are short on stock or deliveries get rearranged due to weather or truck issues. Hiring and training of staff is definitely a big thing that we need to do more of this year. We have our application available online. We always look for new staff to join us. Even as a substitute, a lot of people do work various roles at the school district, so they might be a substitute for us and then a substitute somewhere else. We do offer paid snow days, holidays, weekends, and evenings you get to spend with friends and family, school district schedule. We have t-shirts that we give out with fun food slogans on them and aprons. We also have substitute drivers that sometimes we need. And the main push for this is because we have so many staff who have been here for so long and they're retiring, which I take as a good sign. I mean, that people have stuck around for 20 or 30 years, that they do enjoy working here. We have a nice, fun environment. And I know that we're running close on time, so if there's any questions, I will take the questions and then pass it on.
I also just want to highlight what an amazing partner the school district has been with our Kingston Eats campaign. So they really highlight our harvest of the month, like on the school lunch menu. And then, as she had mentioned before, on the fresh fruit and vegetable program menu. And that way the students are seeing it in multiple forms throughout the whole month, which is super exciting. So on the second and fourth Friday of the month, it's always featured on the lunch menu, and then throughout the month the elementary students will see it in the fresh fruit and vegetable program, which is super fun. Any questions? Thank you so much, Shay. That was great.
Thanks.
And
like
then,
I didn't want to take up too much time.
of course, but of course you can put your contact information in the chats, because I know questions pop up, after the fact. Anything else? Well, we applaud all of the efforts that the food service is doing for students. It's amazing. And Shay's contact info is in the chat. And next up, we have our next presenter is Katie Sheehan Lopez with Harvest New York, Cornell Corporate Extension. And she is our regional farm to school procurement specialist. Is that your new title?
Right.
Very
Yeah,
good.
the job hasn't changed. We just changed our title. So, all right, let me just see if I can share here. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to give an overview of my program. I'm going to leave out any Kingston school district stuff and let Shay answer those questions. But if any questions come up, please interrupt me. All right. So the regional farm to school program is part of Cornell Cooperative Extension, but instead of working with a county, as many of us extension do, I work with a region. And so this position was new in the Hudson Valley when I started in the summer of 2021. It's been like 3.5 years. The goal of our program is to increase the volume and variety of New York State foods in school food service. So it's really about getting those foods on the tray in cafeterias and, ideally kids eating them, but really it's about procurement and supporting local farmers. So the frame of this program is really agricultural economic development. It's not so much focused on nutrition, but on ag economy. So, and we are funded by New York State Ag and Markets. So this is all of us around the state. So there are 7 regional coordinators. And recently we have an education specialist, and there's just one for the state. She started this summer. So that's kind of a newer piece of the program, but the rest of us really are focused on procurement sides. I am not going into classrooms, not doing that kind of stuff. I will go into cafeterias once in a while for taste tests, but it's too hard to do that a lot because I have so many school districts that I'm working with. So you can see here kind of how we are spread around the state. So mostly full coverage around the state. And if there is a spot where there isn't, you know, we're not going to ever say no to a school that wants some help. So I've driven out to some far away counties. So that's always fun. This is my region. So technically I have 6 counties, so you can see them all right here. Delaware is pretty far out there, especially because I live down in the corner here in Beacon. But the Hudson Valley counties are here. Capital Region doesn't have an assigned coordinator, so there are school districts in some of those counties. Like I work really closely with North Colony, work with the Berlin School District and in Rensselaer County. So I'll definitely go up there, you know, as needed. And then just in the like southern part of the Hudson Valley, there's another coordinator because it's smaller, but actually like a ton of schools, especially in Westchester. So, so yeah, I work with school, you know, food service directors, distributors, producers, like anywhere along that supply chain, from the production of a New York State food to the actual purchase and menuing of it. You know, we are coordinating all those pieces in the puzzle. So these are just some of the things I do. I'm not going to go through each and every one. You can kind of read them, but I'll give you some kind of fun examples. So, you know, on the most basic level, if there's a school that's like, I want corn on the cob from the like a farm in the county, like, okay, great. We will help you find that producer and maybe even help get it to your school. So that's often where it breaks down actually, is especially with the smaller producers, is getting the food, you know, getting that last mile delivery to happen, because it's time consuming and expensive. And especially in my area, a lot of the schools are on the smaller side. So Kingston, I would say, is like one of the bigger schools. They can order in more volume than somewhere like Pauling can. So other things, so if there are products that I have helped develop products. So there's a sauce manufacturer in Schenectady that, you know, they've been around for 40 years and they actually co-pack for Price Chopper. So their store brand sauce is made in Schenectady. And I went to see it last week and it's very cool. But they developed a sauce that meets child nutrition requirements, and they wanted it to be New York grown and certified and to be a New York product. So I helped them source tomatoes, carrots, onions, a couple other things to, you know, get the percentage of New York ingredients up high enough to get it to qualify. And so the next step for them is to, you know, for them to find a distribution partner. But in a pinch, I have picked up some cases and like thrown them in my trunk and driven them to school. And then, you know, all these other things. So if a New York Thursday campaign, I'll help organize suggested menus so that schools can see it. Say, okay, here's all the products I could put on my menu this day. Here's where they're available. And they can take it or leave it as they want. But, you know, that's kind of like there if they want to just do it without having to think too hard about it. That's the kind of thing I will do. And bid process, grants, all of that stuff. So it helped write a successful farm to school grant for a school in Otsego County last year. Okay, some of the challenges. So Shay went through this, so I'll just be quick, but some are really obvious. She already talked about them. Staffing, not just in Kingston. This is every school district. Understaffed, we can't hire people. It's really high turnover. It's not like a really highly paid job, so it's just hard to, you know, retain people. And then sometimes they don't have a lot of culinary skills. So it's an ongoing challenge all over. Cost of New York foods does tend to be a little higher, not always, but in many cases it does. So we help, you know, work on some strategy to balance those costs. So we're never going to replace like all the foods. That's probably not realistic, but we can, you know, do it piecemeal where it makes sense and kind of build towards more local procurement instead of less. The logistics, I already mentioned, so getting product from, point A to point B in the right quantity and at the right time, always hard. An example, I had a company that they make dumplings, and they're like, oh, I'll send some samples. And they sent them to the Beacon School District, which is where I live. And she was like, yeah, they'll be there by 7 o'clock tonight. And I was like, well, that's not okay. Like, this is a frozen product. People leave school at 2:30 or 3. I was like driving around the school, like looking for the loading dock. Like, where is this package? I have to get it in my freezer. So like, those are just things that we may not think about as school food people, but make a huge difference. Lots of regulations. Shay mentioned this. Everything is regulated, how they purchase, what they put on the menu, how big the portion size is, everything. Everything is tracked. There's a lot of paperwork. So like, I look at papers like, okay, on this day, you served exactly this many cups of applesauce. Everything is tracked down to the number of portions. And then availability of local products. So this has changed actually the last several years, but it was hard to get certain things that maybe were more available in the western part of the state. But our local distributors have been really good about adding new products. And part of that puzzle is that schools are asking for them. So a distributor is not going to bring in a product just to sit on the shelf. Like, that is not a good business model for them. So it's a vicious cycle sometimes, and we've been cracking it little by little. So the 30% initiative, you may have heard of this. Just really quickly, we're in the 7th year of it right now. So 2018-19 was the first year. And this was Andrew Cuomo's thing back then. So it was for districts that spend 30% or more of their lunch budget on New York State foods. They get an extra reimbursement for every lunch. So their reimbursement goes from 6 cents to 25 cents per lunch. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up, because it's for every lunch, for every student, every day. So it can be like thousands of dollars, depending on the size of the district. Even a smaller district, it's going to be like 15,000 at least. So that's hard to do, like really hard. But we have seen significantly more success in the Hudson Valley. But it does take years to build up. You don't go from nothing to like, yeah, I did the 30%. It's great. So there's lots of room in between there to work on local procurement.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Onteora School District reached the 30%. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there any like things to learn that they did? I'm just thinking like helpful things for other districts, or is it just like a unique situation because of Onteora, like their district makeup or something?
Oh, I mean, I think it does depend. It's going to look different district by district. They, like comparing Kingston to Onteora is not, Onteora has now 3 buildings and Kingston has 11. So like, the level of scratch cooking that can happen, all that stuff is different. But there is some planning that goes into it. Like right now is the time when schools are allocating their USDA funds, setting aside money for this, item or that. So like the planning starts a year and a half in advance almost. So yeah, and I mean, all the food service directors do talk to each other. So sometimes it's good to share ideas like, oh, I got the grape juice and like Ginsburg's is carrying it, and here's how to write the bid. So there's some sharing of information, and that's what I can help with also. But yeah, it's a little bit case by case.
So a year and
before I showed up.
a year and a half in advance. So they're not looking even at next year's.
I'm
Sorry.
like 6 months in advance. So
okay.
Right now they're planning for like the 2025-26 school year.
Mhm.
But that affects like all the way through the end of the school year, that those USDA allocations can really, yeah, Shay's not right. So anyway, there's a significant amount of planning that goes, you go back pretty far.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I could talk about this all day. So I'm really like glossing over some stuff here. But I'm always happy to answer questions later. So how school food purchasing works, I'm gonna skip over a bunch of stuff because I don't want to get in the weeds. We could do that another time if you want. But and Shay mentioned this, but just like a helpful frame of reference is that school food service is its own business within a school district. So revenue and expenses are kind of self-contained. So in some cases, yes, there is some transfer from the general, district budget, but mostly they're expected to maintain like a steady stream of income and expense. So meal debt, like that's gone away, but that was a big problem for a lot of schools for many years because, where is that money going to come from? It comes from the district. So right now, and there's several streams of reimbursement, but primarily it's government reimbursement. So it's for every meal, in this case, lunch, a school gets reimbursed by the federal government and by the state government. So federal reimbursement is $4.52 for every single lunch that is purchased, and 6 cents from the state, which is like kind of measly when you think about it. Like that number actually hasn't changed since the 70s. Like it's ridiculous. So, but does that up, I guess. So altogether, you're looking at like $4.60 per lunch, and that, times however many 3,000 lunches, but that has to cover everything. So it's not just food, it's sporks, it is dish detergent, it's like labor, all of that. So only about like half of it goes to labor and the benefits and all that stuff. So this is what we're working with. It's not like, oh, we just have all this money to spend. I think we all need that, but this is like the dollar amount, more or less. So that's all I'm going to say about how school food purchasing works. Just some of the New York State foods that are available. When I first started, I was like, oh, produce, but there's actually a lot more available. We produce a lot of different things in New York State. So this is a small sampling. These are all different foods that qualify as New York State, meaning, well, and in the case of an apple, it's super straightforward. Like this apple came off of a tree in Ulster County, it is New York State. When you get into things like pita chips, it's 51% or more of the ingredients have to come from New York State. So anything processed, there is a trail of paperwork that we have to, figure out to show that something is a New York State product. It can get pretty messy in the case of beef, where like cows move around. Like, well, I went to Pennsylvania for 2 weeks before slaughtering. What does that mean? But there is pasta, there's eggs, there's poultry. That's a really hard one. Mott's applesauce is New York State. Chobani is. There's tortillas. I think some Milestone Mill people are on the call. And Welch's grape juice. So that's kind of it's not new, but it's newly available in the Hudson Valley. They're little 4-ounce cups of like peel top, like New York State grape juice. And then there's a slushy too, which is basically juice, but it's in a little pouch and you pop it in the freezer for a little while and like it's slushy, and my kids love them. So those are, there's a whole spectrum from totally unprocessed, whole fruits and vegetables to like a pre-made an onion ring. Like that's a thing. We have New York State onion rings, and I saw the facility and it's very cool. So anyway, there's a lot more foods that are available, but just to give everyone an idea. Okay, so I'll just talk quickly about some of the cool things that are going on in Ulster County, even though, I work in a much broader region, but I know we're all focused on Ulster County here. So Ontiora, like I said, she's been doing local procurement for many, many years. This is just a screenshot of her menu, which is like super colorful and like fun. So they do a New York Thursday every month. So that's this one. The Try It Tuesday, I don't think it's necessarily New York products, but in this case it was. So she got wheat berries from a place out in Central New York, and I saw this like giant kettle full of wheat berry salad. And then she does a little like, it's an option to have it. Some of the things that she has purchased and has enabled her to get to the 30% produce. So lots of produce coming through Dagley Brothers, like that's very common in schools in the Hudson Valley. They get milk from Hudson Valley Fresh. Hudson Harvest makes a tomato sauce, the wheat berries. She bought some maple syrup from a local, I think they're in Cohonson, but memory serves. Brown rice. So there's a farm in Orange County that grows brown rice. So she got that. That was one of the things I delivered, like personally. And I was like, oh yeah, this takes a lot. Eggs. There's a bunch of other things. And in fact, when we were calculating the 30%, we were short by $18. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. So like, let's go through the invoices again. We found Polly-O, one order of Polly-O string cheese. They're over the top. So they're doing cool things. And then another thing that Antura did last year was they participated in some recipe testing. So we piloted some recipes that are focused on school food and New York State products, and had a couple of schools around the state to test them out. So in this case, the recipe ingredients were meatloaf, which was local ground beef, mashed potatoes, like scratch made. I can't remember where the potatoes came from. The corn, I think, was just some frozen corn, and then the biscuits, which you look at them, they look like cookies. But this is why we test recipes first. They flattened out so much. They tasted great, but they did like spread out flat. So this was part of the pilot phase. So, so that was something she participated in last year. Ellenville also does some pretty cool things. So they applied for the first round of local food for schools funds. So they had about $12,000 to just spend on local food, and local in this case means within 400 miles, which is actually really far, but they wanted to keep it closer to home, and they were like, let's just go for it. Let's like do some crazy stuff, which is the point of all of this money, is that you can try new things and support local farms that you may not be otherwise purchasing from. So they got venison from Highland Farm, which is in Germantown. They got bison from them at one point too. They did pulled pork nachos they used the nachos from Milestone Mill. That was pretty recent. So watermelon, eggplant, strawberries. So that's what you see in this picture here. Strawberries was tough because they have a very short window, and we had to source from like 4 or 5 farms to get the amount they wanted. So these are some of the, like, it's just hard. And strawberries, you can sell them retail for a lot. So it's just like not a common thing you see in school food. It's fresh local strawberries. And then mushrooms was also a cool one. So the Flowering Sun Ecology Center is up in like the hills outside of Ellenville. It's like 5 miles away. So they did a mushroom frittata. And then one of the farmers came down and brought these like 4 or 5 different kinds of mushrooms growing in the substrate, and just like had a table out in the elementary cafeteria. And so the kids got to come over and were like, whoa, oh my God, like they got to see all these mushrooms and then eat the mushrooms in this frittata, which was very cool to see. So that was a really fun day. And then Rondout Valley also doing, we're trying to get back on track with them, monthly samples, like little tastings in, a building here and there. So they use Whitson, like they contract out their food service. So it's a bit of a different pathway for purchasing for them. But this radish and chickpea salad we got radishes from Long Season Farm, which is in Cohonson, and you can see how kids voted. So we did like that one. And then that's it. So there's other schools in the county that are not so active, and then we know what Kingston is doing. So just a couple other fun farm to school projects that as a team Harvest New York is working on. So the recipes, these are, some of the recipes that Antura was piloting. So there's about 50 of them that were developed in partnership with Brigade. So they're really focused on school food. They're scaled to, institutional size portions. And they are, all the meal components that school food service directors care about are part of that. And they do all focus on at least one New York State ingredient. So that's a QR code to the website where they're all housed if you want. You can go check it out, tell your food service directors where your kids go to school, if they can use them, and should let us know how they go. And then culinary trainings are a part of this. So we have done some culinary trainings here and there, and we're going to be rolling it out more, probably offering around 50 or so around the state next school year, so that food service staff can really learn how to like set up a workstation, how to use a knife, all of that stuff. So this is one, we made cornbread, chili, something else. So here we got some of these ingredients, and we trained about 5 food service directors to go out and be trainers. So train the trainer model.
Nice.
And then
Question.
yes.
I'm just thinking about like the Kingston. So we visited as a part of the Farm to School Working Group, the Central Kitchen, and got to see that, and Shay mentioned how the food is prepared there and then delivered to the other schools that have really small kitchens. As a part of these culinary trainings, are you able to take into consideration the different types of food service setups that everyone has, since we don't have full kitchens in all of the Kingston City school districts right now? So I don't know if there's like different logistics to try to incorporate some of this with the delivery.
Yeah, so I mean, the recipe, every school has a different setup. Some schools are like the whole student body is in one building. So like, yeah, make your own muffins, like great. That's not necessarily replicable in some of these bigger districts. So it really kind of depends. So during like when they're planning for a training, they will try to modify based on like, okay, what's the available equipment? Like what's really going to work in this district? And then as far as the recipes go, there's a whole range of things that are very simple, like a salad dressing, to like full on scratch macaroni and cheese. So in that case, it would be up to whoever's planning the menu to choose what makes sense in their district, because it's not one size fits all for sure. And then we did the Farm to School first ever New York State Farm to School Summit. This was in November in Syracuse. So we brought together food service, producers, educators. There were around 500 people that attended, lots of state agency people. It was over about 2.5 days, including pre-conference field trips. And we had a trade floor with lots of food samples, things that are available for schools. So that was a nice success. And then we are going to be doing a second one, TBA, but probably February of 2026. I will let everyone know once the ink is signed on that contract. So, and it will be not in Syracuse. Okay, that is it. I am always happy to talk to anyone in more detail about any of this, but here's my contact information, and can email me now, or later, or ask me questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Katie. Does anyone have a quick question or two?
I just wanted to say thank you for all the information. And also Katie does come by Kingston quite often. We work on talking about local stuff, trying to procure more. And she definitely has a wealth of information about.
I was gonna go right after this and go cancel on me. So that's fine. That's okay. But thank you for saying that.
She's definitely been very, very helpful to us starting to try and procure as much local stuff as we can.
Amazing. It's really nice to hear how each school district is so unique and their needs are so different and their abilities are so different. So thank you. That was really informative.